Hi, and welcome to the Sassy Mares podcast, where we dive into the most controversial topics in the equestrian world.
We give our unfiltered opinions and say the things that others won't.
With 4 hosts from different backgrounds, we bring a mix of perspectives, experiences, and even a few debates.
So saddle up, it's going to be a fun one.
Hi, and welcome to the Sassy Mares podcast. I'm Amy.
I'm Robin.
And I'm Alex.
And today's topic is stallions. So I think we should start off the first section, counter and controversy, with the social media aspect of stallions. And I feel like Alex,
we already know Alex is
Alex is locked and loaded
With this.
because they get such a bad name on social media the past few weeks, months maybe.
I have been on a yard, like when I had Hicks, there was a stallion on that yard. Would you have ever known? Would you have ever known that there was a stallion on that yard?
He was so nice.
No,
He was the
so
most
quiet.
placid animal I've ever met,
Mm-hmm.
and like he's still out chewing, and you wouldn't even know he's a stallion.
Into boys, didn't he?
Yeah, and I have met plenty of other stallions. We had Shetland stallions on other yards that I've been on.
Yeah.
And it's the fact that now their bad behaviour is like being validated on TikTok and other social
See,
media.
I feel on TikTok, I see both sides of it, being like, this is how a stallion should be, and then like being able to like lead their mares past, like being turned out like a pasture
Yeah.
separating, and then more mares, you know, it's living like a quote unquote normal horse life, and then you see the other side of it.
But I think those videos you're saying about are in retaliation.
Like, that's what I
They
was about
are,
to say.
yeah.
It's stallions are now getting such a bad rep on social media, but like the people are posting it because they think it's funny, and it's not.
It's clickbaity though.
Yeah, it's getting them
It
to go
is
viral.
clickbaity, but it's not fair to put your animal in a position where it's dangerous
Yeah.
just
Yeah.
because you think this would be good for TikTok.
Yeah, because like being a mare owner, I could look at some of those stallions and be like, oh, I would love that temperament in my phone. Like,
Yeah. No,
like
exactly.
why are you trying to advertise that as a breeding stallion when it's so ill-mannered on the ground? I just don't see why anyone would want to breed to that, regardless of how pretty marked or it's breeding or anything. I'd rather have an easier temperament and maybe not as high breeding of a horse than like crappy manners but like really good breeding, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't like how it's being posted now, and there's people in the comments being like, "Oh, he's just a stallion. Like,
Yeah.
he's just being cheeky," and it's like rearing up in the camera in your face.
Yeah.
But if I'm thinking about the girl you're thinking about, I honestly feel like it teeters on potentially likely using the word abuse, because I do think she eggs him on.
Oh,
For the
absolutely.
content.
For clicks, yeah.
Yeah, because you can see that she's like getting the camera, she's like going at him like this in his personal space, and he's giving her warnings of, I don't want you in my personal space, and it's being blatantly ignored. It's like, listen to your horse whispers, you don't have to hear it scream.
Oh,
And then he's
absolutely.
screaming in her face, being like, leave me the F alone.
Yeah.
But then she has that stallion out, and it's like snorting and prancing across the car park. She can't even stand it still to get on. She has to
Yeah.
jump onto its
Dive,
back.
literally.
I
It's just a
dive.
dive onto its back, and then it
Yeah.
trots off.
I couldn't think of anything worse is being in a warm up with that horse.
Why would you
Yeah.
even? I would not feel comfortable if I don't own a mare. I don't have a mare. I have a gelding.
Yeah.
But if I took my horse out and seen a stallion getting on like that, I would pull out.
It's dangerous because you don't know, like, if
What they're
that,
capable of.
that owner clearly can't control it. So what happens if they fall off and next thing it's hanging on the back of your mirror?
Oh my god. Have you not seen there was a video ages ago going around on social media, and I think it was like at an event, and this happened. The girl riding the stallion fell off, and then the stallion was able to smell the mares in season and was trying to mount the mare while that girl was on it, and she had to like beat it, like literally beating it off because it was going to get on her mare. That's actually a really, really good point about like competing stallions.
You see it, like there's a video of like that of wild ponies as well,
Crossing through fields.
crossing through
Yeah.
fields, and there's no signs or anything that there's wild ponies in the field, and these people go in and there's just horses trying to mount their horses from the back.
That's
Like, what do you
so
actually
scary.
do in that situation?
You just have to beat it and hope and pray.
Keep moving.
I
Like,
honestly think Elsie would just kick like fuck.
I think
Really have my
Elsie
back.
would, yeah.
So
literally just keep moving and
yeah.
pray and hope we're never in that situation.
Yeah.
I don't know. I think the bad behaviour is too normalised, but like, if my horse got on like that, I'd be appalled, let alone
A stallion.
a stallion.
And do you know what as well though, on social media there is a whole generation of kids that social media is like where they're learning about horses.
Brainwashing them.
And pretty much they're like, oh, that's normal stallion behaviour. And that's
Yeah.
not a good thing to promote as these girls come up teenage years and adult years and all these things. And social media is a big influence to them. This is like going back to our old episode, the influence of influencers. Like social media is so heavy on these kids. You can't just post whatever the hell you want and like not thinking it
consequences,
affects people. Like
Yes, like the butterfly effect.
Yeah, it does though.
you're
Like
the queen of the butterfly effect, by the way.
Me?
Yeah.
Thank you. I know without me you wouldn't have
Anything in my life,
list them all.
literally, it starts and it just doesn't ever end. It's crazy.
So then going off like the social media side of it, like I was saying there that there's some stallions you see online and they're still able to be like turned out next to mares.
Yeah.
Some are able to be turned out with other geldings.
yeah.
So do you think, like obviously we don't own stallions, but do you think the lifestyle of stallions potentially they don't get to live their life as proper horses?
I
because
think
they're
so,
stallions?
yeah.
Yeah, definitely.
Like if you're lucky, well, not if you're lucky enough, like if you've put the time and the effort in to have a stallion that just acts like any other gelding
Mm-hmm.
and it can be turned out with other horses, it's gonna have a better quality of life. But if
Yeah.
it's out on its own all day, every day,
I feel like to
Or if it's
own-
in.
or
Yeah,
even worse
which
if
is-
it's
I feel
in.
like if you're owning a stallion, I feel as amateurs, it's probably very impossible for us to ever own a stallion because I don't know many yards that would accept a stallion.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like you really would need your own stud or like your own yard or your own land.
There's
to
4.
own. That's crazy, but they're stallions, aren't they though?
I must have seen it on social media or something when someone was asking about where to keep a stallion, and there's a couple.
I
There.
think they're theirs though. I think they are offering breeding from theirs, so it's obviously that girl's the owner
Yeah,
of the yard's stallion, so it's different.
but it's
but-
nice that they're there.
Yeah, it is nice that there is some yards that maybe offer it, but I'm saying you don't see very many yards
No.
offering stallions. So it's like
Absolutely
if you had a stallion, it would feel like for us we probably wouldn't be able to offer it a great quality of life.
No, it would
because-
probably just be in.
Yeah,
it wouldn't
you're
really-
you're at like the mercy of whatever yard
Yeah.
you can find that would keep it, or it would be at a stud. But then I feel, for us being amateurs, we have no reason to own a stallion because I don't feel like it would ever be as of good enough quality to keep it as a stallion.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Do you know what I mean? Like, why would I want to keep like a meter to a 110 horse as a stallion? Like, what am I offering there? What am I bettering? There's horses out there that are probably more well put together, more well bred, have numerous done this, done that, done it
Yeah.
well
yeah,
than my amateur stallion. Like,
Yeah.
I just don't know what it would benefit it to keeping it intact.
yeah.
Whereas if it was a gelding, it would be a great horse, not just a
Exactly.
good horse. Like that they're saying, isn't it?
But then
what's the saying?
people,
A good stallion makes a great gelding.
yeah, well, that's what I was about to say. Like people are keeping horses as stallions when they really
Shouldn't.
shouldn't.
Don't need to. No need.
Yeah.
for
There's
it.
no need for that thing to be a stallion. It's not being bred, and if it is bred, it probably shouldn't be.
Yeah.
So-
Then that goes off the back of the Brood Mares episode that is already out. So if you haven't listened, you should go listen to it now. The why breed anything? Like it goes hand in hand.
Yeah.
I think
Yeah.
If you cover brood mares, it's smart to now be covering stallions.
Yeah.
Just because it has reproductive organs doesn't mean it should be using them.
Or just because it can have reproductive organs
Yeah.
doesn't mean you shouldn't get rid of them.
Do you know when you put it like that? Get rid of the reproductive
rid of
organs.
their
Make it a mule.
But do you know what I mean though? Like people are keeping these not great horses as stallions, and then they're just angry and nasty and not really being trained
Yeah,
properly, and then you
but
just
do you
have
think you just said stallions are angry and nasty? Do you think that becomes like an effect of them potentially being kept in more, being more isolated?
yeah, probably
Yeah.
because all the stallions I've known have been on yards where it's like not a livery yard, and they've
Yeah.
just lived out all the time. They've just been treated like any other normal horse, and they've been
Because
really
they've had that
placid and
opportunity,
well
yeah.
handled. Whereas I feel like a ill-mannered, poorly maybe treated stallion that's in most of its life is gonna be nasty.
Like any horse, really.
Like Loki would be like that.
yeah,
Yeah.
if you left any horse in 23 hours a day and it only got out to do its quote unquote job, surely it would be hard to handle. So if you've got a
Yeah.
stallion that's being kept in 23 hours a day and it only gets out
Yeah,
to mount a dummy,
yeah,
Yeah, and that would then, anytime it's out of its stable, it would get excited because it thinks that's what's coming. Because it doesn't have, oh, that's what's coming. Because it doesn't have. We don't have to bleep that one.
That's anything wrong. It implies.
But literally because I forgot my point.
because because they're only getting out to do
yeah,
the
to
deed.
do that one thing. So
so it's
anytime
exciting.
they're out, they're like, whoa,
But
let's go,
It's
guys.
the same thing as a ridden horse. It's exciting to go out and be rode for an
Yeah.
hour because it doesn't get out to do anything else.
Yeah.
I don't think there's any, not that I don't think there's any excuse, but I don't think that you should look at a stallion and be like, that's going to be a nightmare just because it's a stallion.
Yeah, there is like a bad
There's definitely a bad rep on them.
yeah for stallions, but then I do think like social media doesn't help that.
Oh,
But
absolutely.
then I have to hold my hands up and say that I actually have not been around many stallions in my life. Like I'm only basing my opinions on what I see online
Yeah.
and
You're
any
the
of the
kids I was
studs.
talking about.
Huh?
You are the kids I
am
was
the
talking
kids,
about.
yeah. But then there's a girl I follow online, and you know her. She's 2 stallions, and one of them stands at a really big stud in America, and it's like she would show you about and see them, but it's like they're in like a barn, and it almost is like cages. Like they can't put their heads out, so they're literally in like a 12 by 12, and like it's like do you know like chicken wire almost? It's like
Yeah.
really like wire, and then like really tiny squares.
Yeah.
It's like that the whole way. So it's like 3 walls and then that the front, and like that's it. And then they get out into like a pasture, but it's tiny.
I think that's heartbreaking. Like, I genuinely do.
They're not even like a pasture that's like neighboured, like a fence with another horse. They're like the fences are like 12 foot high, so they're not going to be encouraged to jump out.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like that is what we're seeing on social media. So it's like I know it's not. Maybe it's different. Maybe that's just what we're seeing. But I feel on social media you show the best.
And if
Yeah.
that's the best,
That's the best.
Yeah.
if you need that kind of
But what life is that?
security
Yeah.
to keep a stallion under control,
Yeah, you're doing something
you're
really
doing
wrong.
something really wrong.
But like, what life is that for a horse?
It isn't a life for a horse.
It is.
But
It's
now
sad.
that is America. Now I don't know what it's like here. Like I said, I'm only taking my info from what I know, and it's not a lot. But that's why we have an expert who will be coming to chat to shortly, which I'm sure she'll have a lot more information than what we can
Yeah.
provide on it.
Definitely.
Yeah. I feel like I can only go off the ones I've met that have all been quite
Awesome.
nice animals.
I've only met one stallion in my life, and he is the nicest
Is that
little boy.
Elsie's baby daddy?
No, it's her future baby daddy.
Ooh.
No, it's the one that me and her owner talked about possibly having a baby out of. He's so nice and he's so calm, but he is in.
Yeah.
He's always in. He doesn't go out because there's not too much land there, so it would be too much risk because of all the mares.
Yeah.
But he is so calm and polite and like chilled, and even ridden when he gets out that hour a day to be ridden, he's just nice. He's
Well,
just well
hopefully
handled.
then, you know, going off what we just said, like he doesn't get out much and he's still a good horse. Like hopefully that means he genuinely is
Yes.
a really good minded animal.
He's just a good. He's
And
just a
is
good.
he a fell as well?
Yeah,
It's nice.
and he does showing and stuff as well. So
Yeah, so I feel like eventually I want the Pepsi info.
to a fell.
Probably not to. I don't think the fell registry would appreciate that. They'd probably be like, "What are you breeding? This weird backyard breeder, unethical
It
breeder."
would just look like a cob. It would look like Loki. Oh my god!
It wouldn't
Anyway,
be as hairy as him. It would look worse. Like it would be like a bad
He's
cob.
fluffy right now.
he said it would be a kebab.
Yeah, I'm breeding a. Hey guys, Pepsi's baby is now a kebab. It's me after a night out. But there is a few studs. There's one down in Monaghan that has a stallion that I like, and then there's one pretty local just.
Oh, you're already picking out and everything.
Oh my god, I have a baby daddy list. I'll show you
Oh.
after. And then obviously there's a few that stand in England, so I feel like I don't know an awful lot. So I feel like for my first time, I would like to actually go meet the stallion. So probably would be like an Irish bred stallion
Yeah.
or something that stands in Ireland, something that I can
Yeah.
go meet and actually get a feel for his temperament. Because it's all
Yeah.
well and good when you know what you're doing to find things online. You're like, that'll compliment my mare.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't. I'm going to take advice from the stallion owners, the studs, to be like, look, this is what my horse is. This is what I want. Have you anything that you think would work? Instead
But
of
I
me being
think
like,
going to meet them
I
is
like
such
this
a good
tall, pretty
idea.
one. You know, I like this tall, pretty one that stands over there. But it's like, it's hot-blooded. You know, it
Yeah.
throws like these big back ends, and this horse has these foals that are going to need to exercise 4 hours a day. I'm like,
Yeah.
hey, look, I'm an amateur. I don't
Yeah.
want to flash you a horse. I just want something that's better than Pepsi, really. Like, you're not going to breed, but I'm not going to breed
Sick.
worse.
Oh,
I'm going to breed to breed
so
better.
mean to Pepsi.
You just want a bigger
I mean, yeah, if
Pepsi.
she came out as 15 too, I'd be thrilled. Like her
Is
baby.
she
Yeah.
15? Dot?
15 on the dot.
I always
Yeah.
thought she was 15
Wee
months.
small girl.
So that's what I would like, to be able to go around and see studs, but then I feel like you'd probably get a better idea of the
I think it
quality
would
of life.
solidify your opinion, whereas people who are
Yeah.
like flying AI, is it AI?
Yeah. Artificial
Halfway across the
insemination.
world. Like You're
That's
flying.
so gross. I'm
You're
sorry.
flying AI over from like America.
Like
You're
shipping
not
in
flying AI, you're flying semen.
ChatGPT.
Sorry, I didn't want to say
I
that.
say semen, it's a medical, it's like a proper term. You're flying semen.
Just say
You're flying
Flying horse cum across the country.
call it semen, call it what it is.
Horse cum. I think going to meet them is more beneficial to you because if you're flying horse semen from like a different country,
I don't know. Amy, you're not 5. You were a 13-year-old boy.
No, can we just do a disclaimer? We just had a laughing fit 5 minutes before this.
Was it the word semen?
No, the worst one.
God.
It's happened again.
it's because I watched Yellowstone, okay?
Oh, right, okay, get serious. I think AI is, like, the way you put that, just flying the semen across the world, it grosses me out. I think that's so gross.
Oh, but I think like being able to go meet stallions is definitely more beneficial. Like I said, being an amateur breeder, like I want to know I'm breeding more for personality and like temperament and ability. Whereas I feel like big breeders that are using AI and are shipping semen, it's like they are breeding for talent and they probably could warrant a hotter horse. They probably want a hotter horse to jump those levels.
Yeah.
I don't. So actually going to meet stallions, I think would be very beneficial for like Pepsi's breeding journey.
Yeah, well, that was going to be my point before Amy got the giggles.
We all had the giggles. Only mine was recorded.
I think, like, I would rather. I know I have a gelding, and breeding is like nowhere near my future.
You're
But
reading Loki with a
like,
stallion.
if you're flying
Horse semen.
from a different country, they could post all this stuff on social media about this stallion, but it could be horrible.
Exactly.
It could be a really nasty person, whereas if you go and meet it and it's like being
this
nice.
is actually very interesting. This brought like a story back in my head. So there was a stallion that did stand in Ireland, and I actually really, really liked him.
Yeah.
And he was one that I had for Pepsi for years, and he was really good himself. But his like offspring weren't.
Yeah.
They weren't great, and I've never seen a good one of them. I've only ever seen like mediocre ones. But there was a story that a girl was telling me, and she actually liveried at the yard that he was at.
Yeah.
And she had said that he was the most docile stallion ever. You could tie mares outside his stable and he would just sniff them and he would smile, but he would never get, rambunctious or being nasty or anything. He would just stand there like a normal horse. Mm-hmm. But then he went and stood at another stud and his personality flipped. Apparently he was like lunging at the door, trying to grab people by the shoulders.
Yeah.
He was always led in a stallion chain, with the chiffony and all. He was really, really nasty. So he did a 180.
Yeah.
And I thought that was mental. That's like, I know obviously it depends on like the property and stuff and where you are with your horses, because every horse's personality can change. But I just thought that was really interesting, because it's like,
how can they go from so good to so bad?
Like, how did he go from being like, oh yeah, perfect temperament, to then being like really badly behaved? Like, it just shows you like
so
how
what
you
actually his real temperament,
yeah,
or what was just maybe he was doped up on the other yard.
Yeah.
Or maybe he was sore on the new yard.
Exactly.
Like, there's so
It's
many different things. And then even if, say, you go to meet one of the ones you're talking about, and what if he's like, I don't know, got a sore back and he's crazy, but he's actually a really nice guy deep down.
I think that's why you do need to be researching offspring too.
Yeah,
definitely.
Like, because there is another stallion, another one.
Your list is like...
I know, my massive scroll, like, flop it on the floor and read them out. But there was another stallion that I really liked. And he's a lot of offspring that do jump the amateurs, and that's how I found of his name. And I was like, oh, his prodigy, like their class, like his offspring are really, really good, and they're really competitive from amateur level up.
Yeah.
But they are hot as anything. Like, they're all spicy.
I think that's the stallion I'm probably thinking of as well.
That, as soon as I knew that, like, I was like, oh, these are class. And when I looked into him more, and then watched the ones I knew of them, and the way they got on the warm-up and stuff, they all were very, very similar. And I was like, cross that off my list, because I don't want to be dealing with that. That is far too hot for me.
Yeah.
So I think that's a good, like, if you are researching stallions, definitely try and find some of his babies and follow them on socials, or like follow them in like results and stuff, because I think it does really impact you if like that's what you would want.
Right, so if you had a stallion, for I don't know why we just talked about how we wouldn't want one.
I guess if like I bred Pepsi and she threw a colt,
how would you?
I think unless you had your own land, I feel like you're automatically gonna have to gild it. For me personally, I'd have to gild.
No, I agree.
Because I don't feel, like we say, I don't really know many yards that would keep a stallion. And what I also going off is I'm really ideally wanting to breed another amateur horse, why does anyone want to breed an amateur stallion?
Yeah.
Like if you're breeding, like I know it's like not everyone's breeding for the next big thing,
Yeah.
but your odds are slightly better to breed something that's proven than to breed to something that's just like jumping around the meter.
Do you know what? That's actually a good point though, because where do the average horses come from then? For the average people?
Back
I
of her brain.
guess. Yeah. But then,
What did you say?
Back of her brain.
Oh.
yeah, I feel
Maybe.
like I feel like I'd want to try and do I don't know if ethical is the right word, but I'd want to try and do it and be like
Properly.
proper. So I personally wouldn't keep like a average stallion because,
Yeah.
like we said, a good stallion makes a great gelding.
Yeah.
Do you know? But then there's probably some people out there that do just keep average stallions, and that's probably where you do get your.
But then it's like,
Average
have
horses.
people kept them as stallions to see if they'll prove themselves, and then they've just turned out to be
go.
like the average Joe,
Yeah.
and then they've just never gelded them.
But then you also have places that just don't breed. Like I think breeding is really done nowadays. They kind of just like there's probably nothing wrong with this, but they just put their stallion out and let them run with mares.
Yeah.
There's a place that has loads of Sassy Mares, somewhere over in England, and she just puts a stallion out.
And
And that's it.
She makes a baby.
No, they're like they're not wild ponies, they're not feral, but they do just live out on like miles and miles and
I
miles
think
of
I know what you're
land.
talking about.
Yeah, I can't for the life of me remember who she.
Coffee, Connemara and coffee or something.
Maybe.
Yeah.
And the horses are all so well looked after. And like, fair enough if that's
See,
what you want to do.
See, I feel like maybe because I know in the thoroughbred industry in America you can't AI. It's all natural coverage.
Yeah.
So I don't know if you know more about the fell industry. Are they more natural because of like they like to keep the breed to the breed?
Yeah, well, that would be the sort of situation you were talking about. They're all just, like, if they're coming off the fell, they're all just out there, roaming together, pretty much.
Yeah.
Because there was a, I don't know if I should say this in the podcast, we'll cut it if we can't. There was a situation where somebody bought one, and it came, she'd been waiting for it for a while, and it came over from England, and it had a baby. It just had a baby.
It came
with so she tried to order the pony and got a buy one get one free literally.
Yeah.
So it came with a foal, and then she was like, I have a real like, bearing in mind this pony was 2, and she's like,
okay.
so she was annoyed. She was like, this isn't right.
Too young to carry.
It's not okay.
I
Yeah.
must have been pregnant when it was 1 then.
It gets worse. So she was like, this is not okay. Like, I'm annoyed, but whatever. That's the pony I've picked out. I wanted to send it over and send the baby. And she's in foal again because they left her out and she got pregnant again.
Oh my
And
god.
she's in foal. So she
got pregnant on her
she's,
foal heat.
she's 3 now and she's got a baby and she's got another one coming because of that like lifestyle of just
Just
letting
letting
them run and
Like
then
what they would do in the wild.
so this is kind of the bad side of it then because she's
Yeah.
obviously not like she's just not ready for all that.
Yeah.
2 babies, like it's such a young age.
Well,
so.
I think the other woman controls it to an extent. Like, I think
She does. She swaps her herd around.
She
and
swaps
stuff,
her
yeah.
herd around and puts like a few of like the mares in the field, and then just lets the stallion out.
Yeah, so whatever mares are like ready to go.
Yeah.
Which
Put the
I
stallion
think
with
is
them.
a fair enough way. If
Yeah.
that's what you're doing to grow, like if you have a herd running free and you want to have more babies, then fair
Yeah.
enough.
Yeah.
I personally don't respect putting a stallion out with a big herd full of like
That's just not something you would want to do. Like, I
mares,
wouldn't want that
foals,
as
everything
Pepsi.
else. Like that's
Yeah.
that's asking for
Yeah, for that situation.
for that situation to
Yeah.
happen, which
Yeah,
I
it's
don't think is
dodgy.
fair. I know it's what happens in the wild, but like
We don't keep horses like they're kept in the wild though.
Exactly.
Sometimes I don't think that's a good excuse.
Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah.
I don't think it's a good excuse.
So going back a wee bit there, we were talking about like if you had a colt, what would make you keep him intact? Or do you think for what level we're at the moment, do you think it's automatic snip?
I think it's automatic snip. Unless
But like what if you bred Elsie, right? And she threw out like this cracking put together colt, like it's literally to the stud back, hits every single point. Everyone's like, you might have like the next in hand like Hoy's champion
Yeah.
on your hand here. Would you still think his life would be better if he didn't have his balls?
And I literally don't want to sound braggy, but that actually could happen.
No, because Elsie's well bred.
She's well bred. And the stallion that I like,
Is
her
well-bred.
mate is
Yeah.
well bred.
Yeah.
And he, I don't know. But I just don't think I would want that.
Mm-hmm.
I wouldn't go to Hoy's with it.
Yeah, it's not something for you, for your
And
life.
and then like we said about handling a stallion and stuff, and I don't know if I'm equipped for that.
Yeah.
I don't know if I could give it the best quality of life. It's definitely something you'd think about. Like if it comes out and it looks amazing, and I'd probably ask for advice from other people or see even if somebody else wanted to take it
Yeah.
and sort of like look after it. Like, just keep healthy.
Yeah.
But no, I don't know.
I think that part's fair enough though. If you bred something that would make a cracking stallion, and you obviously know people who keep fells and stuff,
Yeah.
and you were like, look, if you have more experience than me, is this something that interests you? Like, I'll still own them.
But you can show them on my behalf.
You can show them on
the
my
owner.
behalf. Like,
Yeah.
you can co-own them, or even.
Yeah.
I think that's something I would do. Like, I'm envisioning Loki being a mare here. But like Loki,
Loganita or something.
Loki is a cracking stamp of a cob.
Yeah, he's a good, well put together boy.
He's just nice.
But I would go off here and say there's no breeding recorded on that book.
Exactly,
So
there's absolutely nothing.
Full.
Like, I think he's really well
And
put
even if he
together.
had his nuts, they shouldn't be there because there's no breeding on that passport.
Exactly.
Okay.
That's why this is what I was about to get into. Like, nice as he is, and as well put together as he is. Sorry, we're calling him a she now. Like, he has absolutely no breeding.
Yeah. So
It doesn't matter how nice he is. There's nothing that could convince me that he would ever have been a stallion.
Yeah, because you don't know. And then, like I was saying there earlier, like if she had a colt, I probably would end up gelding. Because, like I said, what warrants me as an amateur jumping amateur tracks to keep a stallion.
Yeah.
I think we have very different situations though, because
Yours would be coming out stud booked. Like mine would be an Irish sport horse, probably crossed with either an Irish sport horse or a warm blood. Like, it's not a traditional breed society that I'm following.
yeah.
Mine would be a sports horse.
yeah.
Do you know, like, there's plenty warm blood stallions, plenty of Irish sport horse stallions going around. We don't need a 15-2 one. Like, I'd probably find a nice 15-2 one if I wanted, but we don't need another.
No,
Yeah.
I get you.
But, like, and then the thing is, if I was in the position that I had to sell, trying to sell a stallion is probably a lot harder than trying to sell a gelding.
Everybody wants a gelding.
Yeah, and then even if he was like 7 or 8, then, you know, gelding him at 7 or 8, he might still have some of those study tendencies.
Yeah.
So again, he's probably going to be harder to sell. Thinking about his quality of life, and, you know, as he get older and my situation potentially changes, it would be easier to sell and keep a gelding
Yeah.
than keeping a stallion. I'm just not equipped for it.
Unless you bred something that was going to be like the next Grand Prix.
But I'm not. I
No,
don't know
know.
that.
No, that's what I'm saying. No,
Yeah.
unless something's going to really prove itself,
Yeah.
it would
Like
be
a fluke.
it would be an instant geld for me, because then if you're like leaving it long enough to see if they can prove themselves, by the time you geld them, they're gonna get riggy.
Yeah, there was actually a post I seen on social media, and I kind of liked how she did this. So I think he was like rising for this year,
Yeah.
and he was dressage bred, and it was a dressage rider, and she kept him intact because she has the land and the facilities to do that.
Yeah.
And then she realized, bringing him up to be, you know, for his 4-year-old year, she was like, here, this is a cracking dressage stallion, but I personally don't want to keep him. So she put him out quickly, like this year, and was like, X, Y, and Z, this is him. Does anyone want to breed to him? If you do, he's only standing for this year, and then, you know, he's getting the snip, but I will take a freeze. So it was like she's almost getting the best of both worlds.
Yeah.
So it's like,
I
if
have
he
seen
proves
people do that
himself,
as well.
then you've got the semen there, and if
Yeah.
he doesn't, you just get rid of it.
I've seen that before. I've seen a couple of posts on Facebook of like nice stamps of sport horses being like, it's only for this year,
Yeah, and then
and
he's
then
getting
he's
gelded.
getting a snip.
I guess it is
That's
kind of like
science.
the best of both worlds, but at the same thing, it's like, as amateur owners, we would never be in that position to be able to be like, I'm going to keep Pepsi's colt as a stallion until
Yeah.
it's rising 4 and then decide.
Yeah.
Because personally, I wouldn't have it broke. Like, I had Ian, so it can't prove itself. I would
Yeah.
probably wait until it was 4 before I broke it.
By the time any of us had a horse that was proving itself, it would be too late. to
Yeah.
geld.
It should have been
It'd be
gelded
like
already.
8. We're just down the long lane. Long lane.
There is stories out there though of stallions being gelded. I'm not saying like 13, like I'm saying maybe like 6 or 7, and
Yeah.
they still then do lead an okay life, and they're not reggy at all. But then it is a case by case thing, isn't it?
Yeah,
You
that's
can't-
sort
you
of
can't-
hit and
Yeah, you
miss,
can't
I
like
think.
blank roll that.
Yeah, definitely. I
But-
think it's just a risk that you take whenever you're
Yeah,
breeding. If it's
Yeah,
not
definitely.
something you want to do immediately, then it's something that could or could not have
yeah.
consequences further down the line.
Yeah, but like I was saying, you know, we are just amateurs, and this is just our amateur opinion.
Yeah.
It is a good thing we have a good pro lined up, and I think this is probably
Excellent segue.
an excellent segue into introducing her.
So our pro is Hannah Gordon, and she is a producer of Irish sport horses, Connemars and drafts in Ireland.
Hi all, my name is Hannah Gordon. I'm based in County Mayo in the west of Ireland, and I work for Derry Ronan Stud, where I ride some of the stallions and also help to produce some of the young horses. We also have our own yard where we mainly start youngsters and give them a fairly good varied education and start life. So I do a little bit of everything from show jumping, working hunters, some dressage, little bit of everything. So what traits would make you decide whether to keep a horse as a stallion or to geld him? For me, first of all, he has to have good conformation. He has to be correct, and he has to have a certain amount of presence. So you want a stallion to have like the look at me factor. Then if he's a specific breed, so for example an Irish Draft or a Connemara, he needs to be true to type. He needs to look like the breed that he is. Then he needs to have a certain amount of athletic ability in whatever sphere that is that you're aiming him at, be it, dressage, jumping, but he needs to have some sort of athleticism. And then one of the most important things, he absolutely needs to have the personality and the temperament. There's just some horses that do not have the temperament to stay as a stallion. On the topic of stallions behaving dangerously on social media, I don't think that social media is normalising it. I don't see very many people doing this. There are a couple that I could name and who stand out for having videos of their stallions behaving dangerously. What I would say is I don't think it's normalising it, but what I think it is a great example of poor horsemanship. I think if you're keeping a stallion, surely the idea is to stand at stud, either that or to breed your own foals off him and sell the foals as youngsters. Sharing videos of him misbehaving and behaving dangerously wouldn't entice, I think, customers to use him as a stallion, nor would it entice people to buy his offspring. So I really don't see the point in that. I think it's a poor example of horsemanship. It shows an absolute lack of knowledge around stallions and also a lack of knowledge around horses in general. So I think it's probably a really poor reflection on anybody that would share those videos. I think if you stand a stallion, you have to always think about the stallion putting his best foot forward at all times in the public eye, and particularly in social media, because maybe at times the horse doesn't behave perfectly when he goes out in public. That can happen with any horse, be it mare, stallion or gelding. But what you choose to put on social media, you actually have some say in. So why would you choose to portray your horse behaving badly? Like, it beggars belief that anybody would want to share something like that. On the topic of whether all stallions can be mannerly or some are just going to be hard to handle, I guess the first part of it goes back to temperament. So does he have the correct temperament in the beginning? If he doesn't, if he's too stallionish, it probably is likely that he's going to be hard to handle all of his life. And then you have to question, if he's going to be that difficult to handle, should you be keeping him as a stallion? It's going to be difficult and potentially dangerous for anybody handling him, and also it's a bit of a more stressful life for him, because he's obviously struggling to kind of handle his own hormones. So you have to question whether it's correct for that horse to stay as a stallion. Then if you've made the decision that he does have the right temperament to be a stallion, I think that they should be mannerly within reason. I think in certain situations they may be hard to handle, and I suppose things like that might be like in hand, if they see other horses passing by in hand, if you're at a show, if they cover in hand and they see the horse without tack on and that's how they generally cover, that might be a time where they portray more stallionish behaviours. But they still should be mannerly, so they still should have respect for their handler. They should listen to their handler at all times, otherwise it's dangerous. And then I guess either they shouldn't be out in public, they shouldn't be a stallion, or that person should not be handling them. And I think if you are deciding to keep a young horse as a stallion, from that day on, the day that you make that decision, you have to kind of make good decisions for him for the rest of his life. So you need to get him in the routine of being handled regularly. If he's going to be competing, he needs to be out and about from a young age. He needs to, learn to have respect and learn how he's kind of going to communicate with his handler for the rest of his life, because I think from what I've seen from dealing with stallions, it's all routine and habit, and maybe we're just really lucky in the yard in Derry Ronan Stud, but all of our stallions can go out They can all behave well in public. Yeah, at times they might get a little bit excited, but at all times they are mannerly. And it has to be like that, because otherwise it's dangerous for you, the handler, but it's also dangerous for any other people around and potentially other horses in the area. To be fair to Liam, I think that he's quite good at that. So he would have a system in place from day one. So they have a bit that he puts on them when they're for covering. That bit is used for nothing else. So you will actually see when he goes into the stable and he puts the bit on for covering, they come out the stable door as a stallion. You know, this is the time that they can behave stallionish. That's when you see that they're, you know, their mind is on one job. When I go in to tack them up, I don't use that bit. I use a different bit for riding them. When they come out the stable door, they're a riding horse. When they come off the truck at the show with their riding bridle, they're a riding horse. So I do think that those habits from day one are super, super important. I think the saying, a good stallion makes a great gelding, probably is true. I mean, if he's already a good stallion, he already has a good temperament, he's already a good model, he's got good conformation, he has some athletic ability, why wouldn't he make a great gelding? You know, you're taking that extra factor of the hormones and the testosterone and everything else out of the equation. You're making life a little bit easier for him and a little bit easier for the handlers. So I think absolutely a good stallion has great potential to be a great gelding. On picking the pairing of a mare and stallion, I think in an ideal world we'd just have a mare with really good conformation, really good pedigree, loads of athletic ability, and then you could basically pick any stallion in the world, and you should hopefully have a nice foal. I think what does happen in the real world, particularly, you know, maybe people who don't have a lot of horses, they might pick the mare that has been, you know, their horse of a lifetime, the horse that they're able to go out and enjoy at the weekends, and they're picking her to breed off because they want to breed another one like her, which is absolutely fair. I think in that case it's harder to analyse that mare's maybe strengths and weaknesses, because I think that we all are a bit biased towards our own horses, particularly ones that have been very special to us. If you're in a position that you're not able to kind of recognise her strengths and weaknesses, I think that you should ask a professional for help, and don't be offended. You know, they might say that, like, conformationally she's weak here or she's incorrect here. It's not a criticism as such, because what you can do with that information is that you can then go and look at linear profiles of stallions that have been assessed, and you can pick a stallion that's strong in the area that she's weak. You know, if she was back with a knee, for example, you can pick a stallion that has a really good front leg, and that knowledge can then lead you to not only maybe breeding something that will do the same as she's done, but, you know, kind of bettering and improving generation on generation. I think the most important thing when picking your mare and stallion cross is what and who are you breeding it for. Are you breeding it for yourself to keep, or are you breeding it to sell? If it's for yourself to keep, you really want to kind of analyse what level you want to compete at, and you know what you are actually going to be able to manage. So, you know, have a look at the stallions that are out there. Would you like to ride him yourself? You know, could you imagine yourself going into like the warm-up arena on that horse, and would you then enjoy competing on him? Have a look at the progeny that are out there, you know, and again, you know, be critical. Like, would that be something that you would enjoy riding that horse? And then if you're breeding for the market, kind of suss out, like, where would your mare fit in that market? Would she potentially breed like a higher level horse, or would she breed a more commercial lower level horse? And then again, pick a stallion that'll complement the market that you are breeding for. I don't think stallions have to have a lesser quality of life. I do think that there are stallions out there, a lot of stallions out there, that do have a lesser quality of life. I know I've mentioned the temperament quite a few times, but if a horse has a really good temperament and he's a stallion, it is a lot easier for him to have a good life. You know, all of our stallions get out for a run and a roll around every day. They get out competing regularly. They have a pretty good life. They don't have a buddy, and that's the one area that I said that they're lacking. But, you know, their heads are out over the stable doors, they see horses passing every day, you know, it's pretty good that way. But there are a lot of studs where that's not the case. You know, you hear stories of stallions that can't look out over their stable door, that maybe never get out for a run or a roll. Some stallions are tied in the stable, and that absolutely is a lesser quality of life. And I don't think any horse would want to, you know, live that way. On the stallion classifications, so once a stallion passes a vet, he's good to go into either class 1 or class 2. So even a class 2 stallion, you know that he has passed the vet, so that's a really good place to start. A class 1 stallion is something, again, breed specific, your Connemara's, your giraffe, that meets the breed standard. So they should be a good example of that breed. Then if you're going to class 2, he obviously doesn't meet breed standard in some area. So, that could be in the giraffes, it might be like a conformational flaw. Or in the Connemara's, for example, it could be that he's over height. So he doesn't meet the breed standard of being under 148. I think it's worth saying that for breeders, there's not actually a huge difference between class 1 or class 2. Because if you have a foal of a class 1 or a class 2 stallion, that foal can go on to be inspected and they can get class 1 themselves. So I think the important thing with it is still, picking the best stallion for your mare. And obviously with your class 2 stallion, just considering why he was class 2. It might be something that's irrelevant to you. So, you could be using a Connemara, he could be class 2 because he's over height. You might be crossing him with a mare that's not a Connemara. It might make absolutely no difference to you what height he is. So it's good to know why he's that, and then kind of analyse, is that an important factor, particularly like with reference to your mare.
Just wanted to first start out by saying a massive thank you to Hannah for taking the time to answer our questions and to provide us with a really, really well put together voice note. I felt like there was a lot of points there that we might have touched on, but I feel like she just explained them, obviously from someone that works in a stud, like a better point of view. And there was a few things there that I found very interesting, that what we didn't touch on, but probably would fall into like Elsie's category. It's like breeding to breed standards, like the class 1 and the class 2. That was something that I didn't know. I didn't know why one was class 1 and why one was class 2.
I didn't either, and I had the wrong idea by thinking like 1 was amazing and 2 was lesser, but it's not. As she said, it's not like that.
No, just because something's class 2 doesn't mean it's bad. It's just
it's just got something different, like, as she said, over height or something like that.
Yeah, but that not like we said, it's not necessarily a bad thing, because like I love the Irish sport horse that I have, which is a Connemara thoroughbred. So it's like if I had a thoroughbred mare, it'd be really nice. I know over height Connemara's for the breed is probably not what they're wanting to produce, but if you came across a class 2 because it was over height, you probably would get another nice, small Irish sport horse, which is something that would suit me.
And a lot of people.
Yeah, you seem to feel a lot of people like to buy them. So just because they're in different, classes doesn't necessarily mean one's bad. It's just as something that, like she was saying, you need to take into account with your own mare. What the stallion is going to help or not help with, which is very interesting.
I think taking the qualities of your own horse. To choose what you're breeding to, and then asking someone with more knowledge. What's your opinion is something that I really appreciate. Like, I don't know anything about breeding really at all, and the thought of being able to go, you have a few stallions, this is my mare,
what do you think?
What do you think?
I think that's like kind of the route I think I'd probably end up going down, because like I don't know, and I would want someone to, like I said, I want a better Pepsi. Like I'm breeding to improve of her. So it'd be good to be able to go to a yard or like a stud that had multiple stallions to be like X, Y, and Z, help.
I want this is my horse. Advice?
Opinions, being able to admit that as well is also very important when you're breeding. Like, not just thinking you're a know-it-all.
No,
and
definitely
I'm
not.
just going to go out here and pick that stallion.
No, and like Hannah said, don't take it as criticism if they say that your conformational faults in your mare or this, or, your mare's weak here. That's a good thing for them to be able to point that out.
Absolutely.
So then you can benefit that with a really good stud.
Definitely.
It's like, it was
especially
really interesting
if they're
to
breeding to certain mares and they know what is being produced, they're going to be able to look at your mare and say, maybe not.
So they've seen something similar and it's come out quite poor. They'd be like, look, this has happened, something similar. They'd recommend going this route. And I think that was a really, really interesting point that Hannah did bring up there. I also liked that she was saying that, she doesn't believe just because they're stallions they have a lesser quality of life.
Absolutely.
Obviously she's only speaking from her stud's point of view, but it was nice to hear that, as stallions they still get to go out every day and they still get to go gallop, back and roll. That's nice to hear.
The way they run things, their stud sounds nice for those stallions.
Like what it should be a stud.
Literally it sounds, they've seen like they have a really good quality of life.
I appreciate that they have the good temperament from day dot, And
Yes, that's a good point. It was really nice that she was like, they learned from the get-go, this is your breeding tack, this is your riding tack. Sort it out, or else you're losing your butt. You're losing those balls.
But I think that's such a good system to have. Like, if your stallion knows the saddle and bridle goes on,
you're riding.
Behave. You're riding.
Yeah.
Keep your composure. There's gonna be mares in there, man. Like, behave.
Yeah.
I think that's such a good quality to have.
Like she was saying there, like their stallions, you know, obviously they might get a bit excited, but she was saying that like, you know, your stallion needs to behave in the public eye because no one's gonna want to breed to them.
Oh, no, definitely.
So that they know from like you said, day dot when your riding tack is on, you're behaving, and then it does just show you that this is a quality stallion.
Absolutely. Excitement is one thing.
The horses all get excited though.
Yeah, exactly. But bad behaviour is another. And if you see a stallion being excited, it's not really like it's not something you'd really think twice about.
But there's some ill behaviour that you'd be like, I'll not put my mare near that.
Exactly. Like if it's out with mares and it's going absolutely daft, it's like
yeah, it's icky.
That's icky. Yeah, that's not something I'd want to breed.
It was nice of her to say like from the get go they're training their potential stallions to be like, look.
But I think that's the way things should be.
Yeah.
This is breeding time. This is brain and focus mode time.
It's not just when you see a human you go wild.
Yeah, it's nice to have. It's nice to build a barrier between the two.
It's nice they were doing
I think that's really, really important.
It's all down to good horsemanship, isn't
Exactly.
Yeah, it was another really important thing that she was saying there about horsemanship.
Yeah.
It all comes back to that, but
just gotta be good at what you're doing, really.
Yeah.
And your stallion should be okay.
Yeah.
If you don't know what you're doing, don't do
it.
Like,
Yeah, but again, a massive thank you to Hannah for taking her time to get that voice note to us. It was really, really much appreciated. So thank you.
Thanks. And then a little clap.
Yeah, thanks, Hannah.
And we shall move on to listeners take the reins. So you gotta swap seats with me.
Game time.
Listeners take the reins. Our little game this week is going to be Rate the Stallion. So it's quite a simple game and it's quite short. I've got 4 stallions. I've got photos saved of them all as well, but I think you all know who they are. I just want you to order them on what way, like who you would choose to breed with. So we have Secretariat, Arco the Third, King of Diamonds, and Glamourdale. This is a famous racehorse, and this is where the brand Ariat comes from. That's as much as I know. He looks really good.
He looks quite sexy.
Yeah, like
He was a really good looking horse.
He looks warm bloody.
That's not what a racehorse looks like nowadays.
No.
That is Arco the Third.
Okay,
he is an Olympic. Yeah, he's an Olympic show jumper.
He's got a really cute face.
Yeah. He's not my cup of tea. That was
King of Diamonds.
King of Diamonds.
Yeah.
He's black and white. He's old school. He doesn't even come in colour. Your foal comes out either black or white.
It comes out like back in the olden days.
It comes out, hello there, mother. Yeah. Wow, what a beautiful day outside.
Transatlantic accent.
Oh, right, okay. And then Glamourdale, who we know.
Dressage.
Yes, that is a dressage one. So we've like
one from
of
every
each.
segment. Sort of.
Wait, where's he from?
Traditional, I would say.
Yes, he's a draft.
Draft, yeah.
Draft. Okay, yes. So rate them based on what you'd breed with, like what's top of your list to breed with, and what would be the bottom. And
But
your
I feel
reasons.
like that's really what is our mare? Like we need to know what our mare is.
Yeah, can you give us
blank. It's just a blank. What's the most average breed ever? I don't know. Just a blank mare. I didn't think this far.
Should we say Elsie?
Okay, yeah, breed Elsie. Well, no, because she's a very can't breed her with anything. Just say your mare for the situation. What would you breed your mare with?
So you gonna pretend Loki's a mare?
Just if Loki's a mare, he's just a cob. She's a cob.
Okay.
What would you breed the cob?
Can I like envision that I have a Connemara or something?
You envision
I would
whatever
not
you
breed
want.
any of those two cobs.
Okay. Right, we're just I don't know. Whatever you have matches it.
I'm just going slowly off looks here.
Looks and what you know about them, yeah, and they're
Right, so I would like to know more. I think the only one I don't know an awful lot about would actually be the show jumper.
Mm-hmm.
But being in show jumping, I feel like it probably would be smart to put Pepsi to him, and then probably Thoroughbred, then probably Draft, and then I probably wouldn't touch Glamourdale.
Oh, tea. Boil the kettle.
But he's dressage bred. Like I don't need a dressage half show jumper. Like I know it probably could,
Inventor.
it could throw a nice foal, but for what he is, I don't think it would suit my horse.
He has good looks.
He's an eye catcher. He's an eye killer for sure. But I don't need that for what I'm breeding. I'm breeding something to show jump.
Yeah.
And I feel like warm blood, like show jumping bred warm blood, thoroughbred or draft they're already proven crosses with an Irish sport horse.
Yeah.
I'm probably going to have a nice show jumper there, but breeding a warm blood dressage horse with a Irish bred show jumper, I don't know much about that cross. I don't know how that's going to work. So they would be mine.
It'd be interesting.
I'm not science in here. I'm not doing the experiment.
Okay. What would you do?
I would probably put the draft in first.
This is for your make believe Connie.
Well, it's just for my make believe horse. Full stop.
What's your make believe horse? We need to know.
I don't know. I would like something with. I would like something with some bone. If I was ever to have my own, I'm not breeding to do anything like specific.
You almost want like a leg in each corner type.
Yeah,
horse.
that is
Yeah.
my dream horse is something like 16'2", that could carry like a 20-stone man. Like that. That's
That
the
is
dream.
the opposite of what I
No,
want.
that's honestly like the dream.
Why are you going to turn 20 stone and be a man?
No, I just
In her second life.
yeah, my second life.
Just in case you
I
get
would just-
reincarnated and find that horse again.
I would just really like something with a leg in each corner.
Hardy, tough.
Yeah, something hardy and tough. And
Something
then
Irish.
something Irish, yeah. And then I would probably do that one next.
Show jumper.
I just like the way he looks.
Is it just me or is that weird looking?
No, I
It's got a
it's
weird
just the way he's
proportions.
standing.
It's got like a long ass neck or
He
something.
does have he has a big head.
Yeah,
I don't think he's actually well put together.
No, I don't either. He's at the bottom of
Can
my
I
list.
change my answers?
No, too late.
Um,
I should let you zoom in first.
I would probably put him second anyway.
Mm-hmm.
And then I would go for the thoroughbred.
Racehorse.
Well, I've ridden plenty of thoroughbred cross with something.
Yeah.
And they're always they're quite versatile, which I think I appreciate.
But that's what a sports horse
Yeah.
is. A
Yeah.
sports horse originally did, not just in Irish, but sports horses were thoroughbred something.
Yeah.
Thoroughbred drafts. Thoroughbred
I
collies,
would like something versatile, and then the dressage horse goes last.
Yeah.
I'm not breeding for dressage. I have no aspiration to get to that level of dressage in my
No.
life, and I also don't like the way it's carrying itself.
Oh, I don't think that's down to him.
Well, I know it's
I
not,
don't
but
think that's his fault.
then is that a reflection on the way he gets on, and then would I want to breed with him? Absolutely not.
Well, again, horsemanship.
Okay, Elsie.
Elsie is going to be a thoroughbred. I just think this is a gorgeous horse.
He is stunning.
He's cracker.
He's really
He looks
gorgeous.
more warm blooded than the warm blood.
Yeah,
Like-
but then this is what the traditional thoroughbreds there were more to
Yeah.
them,
But he's
wasn't there?
American thoroughbred. He's American bred, isn't he?
He's got that quarter ass.
I
Whereas
think American thoroughbreds look different to the ones over here as well.
They're more stocky.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They're,
And then this might manifest Copa taking off like Ariat if I breed with this.
What's the name?
Is he
What are
still
they?
alive?
No, I think
No,
he died.
No, like or not him. It's his like sperm. Like, can he still? I should. I
No,
worded
you-
that so wrong.
you would be breeding from his offspring, I think. No.
Yeah, I think he's like long gone.
No,
And then
no
you're-
little
you're
things in
frozen.
the back of the freezer.
But your frozen semen, is it like if it's frozen for so long? Is it like does the quality?
Yeah, I think it only
Me
does
out,
good.
I'm frozen. It's like 84 years. Okay, that is at the bottom of my list. I'm sorry, but I don't like the shape
So
of
you're
it.
going to go dressage and
Above that.
oh, interesting.
Yeah, right.
So what are we doing?
So I'm going
Racehorse?
right racehorse first.
Mm-hmm.
Then I'm going draft because that's
Nice.
also a very good looking horse.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Very good looking horse actually.
Mm-hmm.
And then I'm gonna go dressage just because
Glamour,
I just think Glamourdale is nicer looking than that.
yeah.
Yeah.
He's just a funny shape to me. I'm sorry, but like his neck is as thick as his body.
Me too.
Have you looked at Loki? Have you seen my horse?
Loki's just
Yeah, but Loki's not trying out here trying to have babies, like based on how
I don't
hot
know
a
about
stallion is. And I
He
do
seems to want babies with Pepsi.
Elsie does not like it.
I do think Glamourdale is a nice horse. You were telling me earlier about his temperament and stuff. I don't know any of this. If I'm going just based on looks, I would put him third.
There's no doubt in my mind you wouldn't get a pretty athletic horse like.
And then it's black, so then I know at least I'm getting something that at least looks well.
It's a humongous cell. You're like, Amy, what happened to you? And it's like yapping when it was born.
Humongous face.
Tap dancing like
Elsie
Benny.
would
but-
die giving birth to any of these. I just realised that. Guys, the game's over.
Just like throwing it.
I don't want to play anymore. Oh my god. I
In this
forgot.
world, Elsie is like 15-3.
Okay.
But apparently,
I'm scared, so I want to get rid of her. She's too big for me.
a mare would only grow their baby to as big as they know they can deliver. I don't know how true that is, but apparently.
That sounds correct, but then
I'm not a vet.
you're not a vet. And then also, if you're putting some giant in there, like nature's going to take its course.
Yeah, I have no idea. But apparently, that's what I've heard. Because I was always worried about breeding Pepsi with her being smaller. I was like, oh, I literally won't be able to go to like 15-2 stallion. But then I've been told that it's like she won't let it grow any bigger than what she knows she can push out. But I don't know how true that is.
Okay. Well, yeah, so that's our rankings. To the listeners, I'm going to put up a post on the socials of all 4 of those stallions, and we want you to rank them as well. And what would you breed with? And if you're like Alex and you have a cob that is a gelding, it's now a female. Yeah. And you can play the game.
All of our horses are mares for this game.
Yeah. I'm a Marinist. Again.
And socials? What socials, Amy, are they going on to?
Socials, you say?
Socials.
That would be at the Sassy Mares podcast on TikTok and Instagram.
And is that where the game is going to be?
That's what the game's going to be.
Please leave a comment, like and subscribe. You can't subscribe on that app.
Follow us. Follow us for actually a lot of fun on TikTok,
hit
honestly.
that bell notification on Instagram so you get notified every time we upload and post fun games, and then you can get involved because we would love to hear from you.
Yes, defo. Is that us?
Let's wrap this up.
Let's wrap it up. Okay, thanks for watching, everybody. I've been Amy, and you can find me on @AmyCopa on TikTok.
I have been Alex. You can find me at ab.eq on TikTok and Instagram.
And I've been Robin, and you can find me at Robin Hartley on TikTok and RH Jumping on Instagram. I almost got this messed up.
And you can find the podcast on @the Sassy Mares podcast on TikTok and Instagram, and search it up on YouTube and Spotify.
But
you
really know that because you're already there. And don't forget to like and subscribe and leave a nice comment. And we would love to hear from you guys.
Actually, can I just do a quick disclaimer before we end? See, in our last episode, we talked about broodmares, and I was talking about Mernonists, and I just remembered because I said about Mernonists again. And I want people to, if anyone else out there is a Mernonist, can you please comment? And let's form a revolution.
Get that hashtag going.
Mernonist! Okay, thanks, bye!